Hello everyone and welcome back to Age of Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar, and in this video we'll be returning back to the Age of Sigmar army archive and returning to the Gloomspite Gitz in their part 5 army video. And in particular in this video we're going to be looking at the Squigs that belong to the MOONCLAN part of the Gloomspite Gitz, and this is going to be the Squigs that are non-hero. So there's going to be things like, you know, your Squig herds, Squig hoppers, you know, your standard mangler squigs, Squid Gobbers, those sorts of things. So firstly, we're going to start with, let's say, the lowest and build ourselves up. So we're going to start with this Squig herd. Now the Squig herd is going to cost you 70 points for 6 models. They can come in a max size unit of 24, and there's no mass legion discount for taking max size units. They're going to be a battle line for your Gloomspite Gitz if you have a MOONCLAN general. And now let's go in to have a look at their war scroll. So, start off with the description. A Squig herd unit has any number of models, each armed with a fanged field gob. So, looking at their wheel stats, they've got a 5-inch movement, a 6+ save, a bravery 3 and 2 wounds. So, I'm not going to lie, not the best wheel stats we've seen there. I mean, 2 wounds is probably the best thing on it. Yeah, everything else is not. At least they get a save, I suppose. Right, okay, and then going into their melee weapons, so we've got 2. So we've got the Fang Field Gob. So this is a 1-inch range. It's got 2 attacks, 4 hit, freeze wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. And then we've got the Squig Prodder, which of course is going to be from the like Squig herders. So the Squig Prodder has a 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 5 hit, 5 wound, no rend, and 1 damage. So Squig Prodder is not really meant for its combat effectiveness, shall we say? But the Fanged Field Gob, it's, to be fair, it is good. It used to be D3 damage, that's why I'm like, oh, it could have been better, but no. -1 rend and 1 damage, but a good hit into wound cash, so yeah, not too bad. Right, okay, and then going into the ability, so first it says the Squig herder, so 1 in every 6 models in this unit must be a Squig herder model instead of a cave Squig model. A Squig herder is armed with a Squig Prodder instead of a Fanged Field Gob. And we're going to see why that is in the rest of the abilities. So the next one is Go That Way. So you can reroll run and charge rolls for this unit while it includes any Squig herders. There we go, that's why you have a Squig herder, to make them be able to reroll their run and charge rolls. And then we've got Squigs Go Wild. So roll a dice for each time a cave Squig model from this unit flees before the model is removed from play. On a 4+, the nearest other unit within 6 inches of the fleeing model suffers 1 mortal wound. If 2 or more units are equally close, you can pick which suffers the mortal wound. Okay, so not like a game breaking ability or anything like that, but it means that when these guys, you know, inevitably flee because their bravery is 4, you're going to do a bit of damage. I mean, I think by the looks of things, you know, it's the nearest other unit, so that's going to be friendly. So this is going to backfire on you quite a bit. But when it doesn't backfire on you and you can do some more wounds to the enemy, it's a bonus, isn't it? And then looking at the keywords, we've got Destruction, Squigs, Gloomspite, MOONCLAN, and Squig Herd. So the 2 most important ones I'd say there within the army are going to be Squig and MOONCLAN. So those are the Squig Herds. Like I say, they are the sort of the most basic for the Squig unit. But, you know, they can cause your opponent a bit of trouble, not in so much that they're really, really powerful, but in so much that they're quite chaotic. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the step up. So it's going to be exactly the same as the Squig herds, but they're going to be ridden upon by a Grot, and these, of course, are going to be the Squig hoppers, because they're not Squig riders, they're hoppers, because the Squigs hop instead of ride. You see what I mean? Right, so they come in minimum size units of 5, and they come max size units of 20. There is no Legion discount for taking a max size unit of 20, and they are Gloomspite Battle Line if you have a Loom Boss on Giant Cave Squig or a Loom Boss or Mangler Squig as the general. Okay, so let's have a look at their stats. So they are going to be hopefully a little bit better than your standard Squig herd, so let's see. So, looking at the description, it says a unit of Squig hoppers has any number of models, each armed with a slitter. And then it says mount. This unit's cave Squigs attack with their fanged field gobs. And then it says flies. This unit can fly. Okay, quite a few things there. And then, so that's good, so they can fly because they can hop. I know you might think, oh, it'd be nice if they could do that, but they can do that, so it's nice to have it all written down, of course. And then looking at their wheel stats, we've got a 3d6 movement. That's swinging as hell. I mean, I know the average is going to be, is it 11? I think, isn't it? On 3 dice, the average is going to be 11. And if you look at it like that, oh, 11, that's really, really good. Yeah, but it's going to be, for me anyway, I'm sure I'd roll for their move and I'll get 3 ones or something. So, you know, just bear in mind that they're not reliably fast or reliably average, I would say, for me anyway. For you, you might roll perfectly well for them. But anyway, so they've got a 3d6 movement, could be really good, essentially. They've got a 6+ save, bravery 4 and 2 wounds. They've got 1+ more bravery than the Squig herds, so they've got 4. 2 wounds, yes, that's good because, well, they're cavalry, aren't they? So we expect that. It's funny though, isn't it, how they've got 2 wounds, bear in mind that there's someone riding on them, and the ones who aren't being ridden on have 2 wounds as well. So it's a little bit like, doesn't really make that much sense, but I suppose them having 3 wounds might be a bit too much. And then their 6+ save, I would have hoped it would have been a bit better than the normal, you know, Squig herds, but I suppose they don't really have any more armour, so yeah, that's fair enough. And then going into their weapons, and they've got 2 and they're only melee weapons. So the first one is the Slitter. This has got a 1-inch range, a 1 attack, 5 hit, 5 wound, no rend, and 1 damage. So this is the guy on top, the little Grot with his little dagger. And then you've got the Fanged Field Gob. So this is a 1-inch range, 2 attacks, 4 hit, 3 wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. The same as we saw for the Squig herd just before. Right, okay, and then we have their abilities, and they only got 1, and this is a boing, a boing, a boing. So I'm going to say that again, a boing, boing, boing. And this is the reason why I think this army is really characterfully amazing. Right, okay, so what does it do? After this unit has made a normal move, pick a 1 enemy unit and roll a dice for each model in this unit that passed across a model from that unit. For each 4+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Okay, so just to put that in perspective, you might not want to take these in units of 20 because that's the maximum size you can take them for a start, and also that is going to cost you 360 points, probably far too many points to spend on these Squig hoppers. However, if you do, and if they all jump over an enemy unit, then that means that you roll 20 dice, and for every 4 up you do more wounds to the enemy unit. So on the average, technically, it should be 10 mortal wounds, I believe, you do to the enemy. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. So the important lesson to know here, if you're using the Gloomspites or you're playing against them, remember, look out for the ability called a boing, a boing, a boing. I love saying that. I know you guys are probably pissed off me to keep repeating that, but that is such a good name for an ability, isn't it? That's absolutely amazing. That's why I love these guys. Right, okay, and then going into the keywords, we've got Destruction, Squig, Gloomspite Gitz, MOONCLAN, and Squig hoppers. So, like again, I'm going to say 2 most important ones there within the faction, within the army, is going to be Squig and MOONCLAN, and that's going to be the same, I imagine, for each of the other units as well. Right, so now that we've looked at the Cave Squigs and the Squig hoppers, let's take it up another notch. So these are essentially going to be the Squig hoppers who have received a knightly rank. They are knights among their kind. And this is going to be the Buoyant Grot Bounders. So the Buoyant Grot Bounders, right, they're going to cost you 100 points for 5 models. You can take them a maximized unit of 15 for 300 points. There's no Legion discount there. I'm sure you can work out the maths. And they are not going to be battle line for your army in any way, shape or form. Right, and then going into the description, says a unit of Buoyant Grot Bounders has any number of models, each armed with a poking lance. And just to say at this point here, when I've been reading the description, it says they can have any number of models. Bear in mind, like I always say, that's for narrative and open play. For match play, we have to go by what it says in the match play rules. So for these guys, swim size units of 5. Right, okay, so and then going into the rest of the description, says a mount. This unit's Cave Squigs attack with their Fanged Field Gobs and then fly. This unit can fly. Right, and then looking at their will stats, so they've got a 2d6 movement, a 4+ save, a 5+ bravery, and 2 wounds. Right, so obviously they're more expensive than the Squig hoppers. However, they've got 1 dice less than their movement because it's 2d6, but they do have a 4+ save, which is, you know, 2 better than the Squig hoppers. They've got 5+ bravery, which is 1 better than the Squig hoppers. So, you know, they're making up on different areas for sure, but bear in mind these guys, They could move all right, like the average is 7, which isn't a bad movement, but they could roll really low, so just bear that in mind. Right, and then they're going into their melee weapons, and they have got 2. So this is going to be their Poking Lance, which has got a 2-inch range, 2 attacks, force to hit, force to wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. Not bad, fairly respectable. Bear in mind this is being wielded by a Grot, so that's pretty good. Right, and then the next one is Fanged Field Gob, so it's a 1-inch range, 2 attacks, force to hit, freeze wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. Yeah, that's the same we've seen for the other cave squigs. The only thing I just feel a bit lackluster is, like I said, they used to be D3 damage in it, so it saddens me, but maybe that would be too much. So it's not a bad attacks, like I've already said. It's the hit into wound cash. It's good. It's got -1 rend. It's got 2 attacks. Right, and then its abilities. So we have also got a Bounder Boss. So the leader of this unit is a Bounder Boss. You can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with the Bounder Boss's Poking Lance. So that means he's hitting on 3 as opposed to 4s. Right, and then we've got the abilities. So we've got a Buoyant Smash. So after this unit has made a charge move, pick a 1 enemy unit within a 1 inch of this unit and roll a dice for each model in this unit. For each 4+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Okay, so sort of similar to the boing 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 rule from the Squig Hoppers, but the boing smash is different to the boing 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 rule, because the boing smash is essentially when you're charging, you've got a chance to do mortal wounds to the enemy on a 4-up, so same dice roll you need. However, there's going to be fewer boing grot bounders in this unit opposed to how many Squig Hoppers you would have in the unit for the same points cost anyway. But yeah, it's a chance to do more wounds, isn't it, on the charge, which is nice. And I think the rule a boing smash is almost as good as the rule boing boing boing, but it's got a little bit of a twist on it, so I do like boing smash. And if you guys, like I said, fed up with me saying boing, get used to it, because I will be saying it many more times to come in this video. Right, and then the next ability is Lances of the Bounders. So add 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made with this unit's Poking Lances if this unit made a charge move in the same turn. Okay, so if you do that, then that means that their 2 attacks will hit on a 4, now wounded on a 3, which is really, really good for these Grots. So yeah, I think that's a nice ability. Like, people might say, oh, I would have liked it to be like +1 damage. Like, nah. They're Grots at the end of the day. They're not going to be like proper armoured knights on top of like war horses or something along those lines. So it's just something to bear in mind there, that they've got some pretty good attacks for what they are. Right, and then going into the keywords, they've got Destruction, Squig, Gloomspite Gitz, MOONCLAN, and Buoyant Bounders. So again, Squig and MOONCLAN are going to be your most important within the Gloomspite Gitz army for keywords. Right, okay, and then we're going to make a little bit of an interesting twist now. So we're going to move into Forge World, because they do have a couple of units in Forge World, and we're firstly going to start with the Squid Gobber. So this is only a 1 unit. So maximum size models that can be in this unit is 1, and it's 160 points. Just bear in mind here, because I was a little bit confused, because when I went on the War Scroll Builder, because that's how I get quite a few of the points for when I review the units. And one of the ways I see what's the maximum size they can have is I just continuously press the plus button until it stops. If you've used War Scroll Builder, you know what I'm talking about. However, with the Squid Gobber, I kept on pressing it until it got to about 80 in the unit, and it was like over 10,000 points or something like that. And it soon came clear to me that maybe this bit of the app this bit of the website hasn't been fixed. So I went onto the Forge World website, and yes, you can only have a unit of one of them for each unit. You can only have 1 model in each unit, because they are artillery, aren't they, at the end of the day? So that's pretty much all to say about them. You can have 1 of them in each unit. They are 160 points, and they are artillery. So what are they like in the rules? Let's have a look. So a good way to do this is to go on the Forge World website, because obviously they're not in the Gloomspite Gitz book, and that's where I get the rules for everything. So the Squid Gobber, right. So looking at the description, it says a Squid Gobber is armed with spit squigs and a carnivorous maw. It says crew. This model has a Grot crew that attack with their bashing sticks. For rules purposes, the crew are treated in the same manner as a mount. Right then, now looking at their will stats, it's got a 4-inch movement, it's got a 5+ save, a bravery 4 and 8 wounds. So, at least it's got better than a 3-inch movement, because this is quite a fat squig that's sort of moving around and not very big legs. A 5+ save, yeah, that's good. They could have given it 6+, so 5+, yeah, we like that. 4+ bravery, I mean, 4 plus isn't great, obviously. Well, I don't mean 4 plus, I mean 4 bravery. And like I say, that's not great. However, you're playing Gloomspite, sort of get used to it. But 8 wounds is nice. That's a decent amount of wounds for an artillery piece. Right, and then looking at the weapons, and they do actually have a missile weapon, of course, being the Squid Gobber, and that is the Spit Squig. So they've got a 30-inch range, 6 attacks, force hit, freeze wound, no rend, and D3 damage. Good attacks there. Only thing there is lack of rend. However, it's got a good range there of 30 inches, so it sort of makes up for it. And then looking at the melee weapons, so it's got 2, and this is the bash and stick, so it's got a 1-inch range, 3 attacks, 5 to hit, 5 to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. Obviously, that's from the crew. And then the Carnivorous Maw, it's got a 2-inch range, 3 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -2 rend, and D3 damage. So, obviously, the crew attacks are, you know, not really worth talking about. You know, they're alright. At least you get them, I suppose. And then the Carnivorous Maw. Now, that's something, if I went up against a Squid Gobber, because I never fought one, but if I did go up against one, I would sort of feel like, oh, I can take that thing out in combat. It's a shooting. It's an artillery piece, isn't it? I mean, it looks scary, but it's an artillery piece. So it's not really going to do any damage to me in combat. So I might charge it, but attack with something else first. And then this could attack me before I get to attack it. And then it chucks a -2 attack at me with D3 damage. And I could go, fuck, I didn't know it was going to do that. So it could catch your opponent off guard in combat. And I don't mean charge this thing in. I just mean the sense of the enemy does like sort of try and deep strike behind you and charge it with like something not too amazing. You could surprise them and you could even win that combat. And its shooting attack is good with the D3 damage. Of course it's swingy, but as we've been through already with this army, this is a very swingy army. Right, and then going into the abilities, first one is Arcane Spits. This model's Spit Squigs can target enemy units that are not visible to attacking model. In addition, add 1 to the hit rolls for attacks made with Spit Squigs if the target had 10 or more models. Okay, so that means that if you're doing that, now you're hitting on a 3 and wounding on a 3 for that Squig, or the Spit Squig. Even though I'm getting confused on how you pronounce these words. So you're getting plus with the hit for your Spit Squigs if the enemy unit's got 10 or more models. So that means that you've got 30-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on a 3, wounding on a 3, no rend, and D3 damage. So they've got 10 or more models, so good for taking out hordes essentially. And then looking at the keywords, we have got Destruction, Gloomspite Gitz, Squig and MOONCLAN, Monster, and Squid Gobber. So again, I'm going to say Squig and MOONCLAN are 2 important ones here within the Gloomspite army. Right, okay, so we're going to move back out of Forge World now to go into the monsters. Because firstly, we're going to start with one of the newer models for the Gloomspites. And of course, this is going to be the beautiful, beautiful Mangler Squigs. Right, so the first thing to talk about with these beautiful creatures is that they cost 240 points and they are a single model, as they are a monster and a behemoth. They are of course behemoth, and unlike the fleshy courts, this does not make them battle line. They are just a behemoth, and that's their role they play. Right, and then going into their description, it says a Mangler Squigs are single model armed with a huge fang-filled gobs and balls and chains crew. This model has a Grot crew that attacks with their bashing sticks. For rule purposes, the crew are treated in the same manner as a mount. And then this model can fly. Which of course, like we said with Squigs, there's quite a few of them can fly, which is cool, but it's nice they can because they basically just jump, don't they? I think there might be something in the lore that allows them to sort of propel themselves, but it's nice that they can fly as well, especially the big ones. Right, and then going into their will stat, so their movement, firstly, is part of the monster damage table. So it starts with a 3d6, and then it goes the intro. Okay, I'll look into this damage table because I was just going to say, you know, it normally gets weaker and weaker. However, with the damage table for the Mangler Squig, it starts off, you know, being the best, and then it gets weaker, 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 until it gets to about half its wounds, and then it gets better and better and better to as good as it was at the start. So that's interesting. So yeah, I'm sure you guys can read along anyway. The picture will be up for you guys to see. And then we've got a 4+ save, bravery 10 and 12 wounds. We sort of need a 4+ save for this guy, just because otherwise he'll get killed really quite quickly from shooting, all those sorts of things, because he's only got 12 wounds, and because he's going to be in the face of the enemy anyway. So a 4+ save is very nice to see there. Bravery 10, that is good. And you got to think, well, it's a monster. Why does bravery 10 matter? You know, it's only single. You know, it's only a single model unit. Yeah, but when the enemy screams a Terrorgeist at you, or they chuck some Tomb Banshees at you, anything like that, or crit flares, it's very important that that model has a high bravery. So it's good that they've got it there. Right, okay, and then going into its melee weapons, so we've got 3, and the first one is huge fanged field gobs. So it's got a 2-inch range, 4 attacks, freeze to hit, and this will get harder to hit as the more damage it takes, and then obviously, like I said, towards the end, it's the hit roll gets better again. Right, so it starts with a 3 to hit, and then it's got a 3 to wound, -1 rend, and d6 damage. Okay, so potentially a lot of damage there. It's only got a -1 rend for like, the gob attack, which, you know, like dragons tend to have -2, so -2 would be nice, but -1, you know, it's rend, isn't it, at the end, I would take it. D6 damage, obviously very swingy, can be really good, can be not so good. And then going into the balls and chains, so it's got a 2-inch range. It starts with 7 attacks, and again, it will get weaker, and then it will get better with the more damage it takes. Then it needs a 3 to hit, a 3 to wound, -2 rend, and a D3 damage. Okay, so it's interesting how the balls and chains got the -2 rend and not the more, or the gobs as it's called. But, you know, I'm not going to, you know, sniff at that. A -2 rend attack is good, and D3 damage, it is swingy. I would prefer it to be 2 damage, but like I've already said, with this army, if you're playing this army, you've accepted a lot of randomness. It's similar to Skaven. You've accepted a lot of randomness, and you have to deal with it. You know, you embrace it, basically, and that is what makes this army unique. Okay, and then going into the last one is Grot's Bashing Sticks. This is a 1-inch range, 4 attacks, 4 to hit, 4 to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. Okay, I'm quite happy about that, because I expect that to be 5s and 5s to hit and to wound. So, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's good. So, maybe they're like elevated Grots, aren't they? Maybe they're Grots of the highest order to be able to ride such a mighty beast. Right, and then going into their abilities, so we've got Curse Splat. So this is add 1 to hit rolls for attacks and made with this model's of balls and change if this model made a charge move in the same turn. Okay, so you added 1 to the hit rolls, so that means that the balls and change are hitting on a 2 and winning on a 3, -2 rend and D3 damage, and they start with 7 attacks. That is pretty goddamn nasty, and what a good rule to be called Curse Splat. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And then the next one, which is Watch Out, and it says if this model is slain before the model is removed from play, roll a dice for each unit within 6 inches of this model. On a 4+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, so firstly, that is D3 mortal wounds to the enemy or yourself on a 4+, if you're within 6 inches of it. So just bear that in mind. But like I say, I think quite a few people just chuck these into the enemy, just like, there you go, deal with it. Right, here's another one, deal with it. So that is pretty cool. And then going into the keywords, we've got Destruction, Squig, Gloomspite, MOONCLAN, a Monster, and Manly Squig. So we've got Squig and MOONCLAN, like I said before, again, the important ones here within the Gloomspite army. But also Monster's going to be important here for certain keywords that benefit them or negative them. Like, for example, this guy won't get any benefits from cover. You know, that save scenery ability. Something else I just want to mention on a personal level with the Manly Squig. I know there's some people who will, I know they do this with the old ones, so I presume some people do it with the new ones. Because you get 2 Manly Squigs on this, you know, one monster. Some people take them apart and then put them both on separate bases, and then they have 2 Manly Squigs. I personally am quite against that. Like I said, I don't have this army, so you can probably tell me to fuck off. But the reason why I am against that is just because the whole point of a Manly Squig is that it runs at you with chains tied to both of them. So it's not really the jaws that do the damage, it's the fact that they run into you and they sort of cut you apart with these massive chains that are hitting into you. And that's the whole point of the Manly Squigs, is the chains that run between them, and then they run around the enemy, you know, and rip them apart with that chain. So if you take them apart, then they don't really have the chains, and it sort of takes the point of why they're called manglers, because they mangle you up in the chain. But anyway, that's just a personal level, and like I say, you can completely disagree with me, that's just my own personal thoughts. Right, okay, so that is the Manly Squig, and I think the Manly Squig is very nice. 240 points is not too expensive, is it? It's very swingy, of course. All its damage is, you know, apart from the Grot's Bashing Sticks, don't forget about those. Like I said, they weren't too bad. So apart from those, all of its damage is swingy, you know, it's all D3 or D6. Good swingy, but, you know, still swingy. Its movement is 3d6, so that's swingy as well, but it's got good potential, and that's the main thing. Right, and then we're going to move on to our last Squig unit, and that is going to be the Colossal Squid. So this will be us going back to Forge World. Right, so the Colossal Squid it's going to cost you 300 points, and obviously you only have one model in that unit, and it is a Behemoth. So 300 points, 60 points more than the Mangler Squig, but nothing quite as expensive as, you know, like an Eidolon or something like a zombie dragon, or, well, a Vampirelon zombie dragon, something along those lines. So let's see what it's got like in its war scroll. So looking at its description, it says a Colossal Squid is a single model armed with enormous jaws and trampling feet and puff spores. So it doesn't say anywhere it can fly, so just bear that in mind. This thing cannot fly unless they corrected it in an FAQ or something and they just haven't put it on its war scroll. And then looking at its wheel stats, so its movement is a dash, so again it refers to the damage table, so it will get weaker the more damage this thing does take, and not unlike a Mangler, it won't get better again, it will just get weaker like most monsters. So to start with though, its movement is 46, which is really good. I think a 46 is the average on 46, is that a 14, something like that? So yeah, that's good. Of course, you know, it can be swingy, it can be really good, you know, but you know, that's all in the luck of the dice, of course. A 5+ save, which isn't great, is it? Because this thing can just get shot to pieces. It's got 16 wounds, but unlike the Mangler, it doesn't get, you know, its attacks don't start getting better again. It's just going to take a lot of damage before it gets to the enemy, potentially. Unless you get really lucky with your movement, you just charge it in really quickly. But it could be a 6+ save, I suppose, but it would be nice for it to be a 4+, I think. A bravery 10 and 16 wounds, and then going into its weapons, it's got 1 missile weapon and 2 melee weapons. So looking at the missile weapon first, and that is puff spores. So this is an 8-inch range, 1 attack, 5 hit, 5 wound, no rend, and D3 damage. Not a great attack, short range, really not good to hit into wind characteristics. Like no rend, D3 damage. D3 damage, well, better than what it was. 1 damage. It's not really much point doing this attack, but D3 damage nonetheless. It's going to be one of those things where majority of the time you're not going to get off, but when you do, you could be really lucky and do 3 damage to the enemy. So it's good that it has got it, of course. Right, and then going into its melee weapons, we've got the enormous jaws. This is a 3-inch range. It's got 8 attacks and it hits on a 2, and this is a star as well. It's a dash to refer back to the damage table, as it will get harder to hit as it takes more damage. But nonetheless, it starts to hit on a 2, wounds on a 3, -2 rend, and D3 damage. That's 8 attacks, hit on a 2, wound on a 3, -2 rend, and D3 damage. It's got a 3-inch range as well, which is good. It's got a good rend to it, but D3... well, I was going to say like D3 damage, I sort of expected more. What was I expecting? D6 damage, that would be insane, wouldn't it? So D3 damage, I suppose, makes sense. And then the next one is Trampling Feet. So it's got 1-inch range, has 10 attacks, but again, referred to damage table, so the more damage this guy takes, its feet attacks will get less, but it starts with 10 attacks, 5 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 rend, and 1 damage. That is a 5 to hit. It's a bit... it's quite hard, isn't it? I mean, like, I don't know what the average out of 10 dice is. It for a 5? Is that you get like 3 attacks, 4 attacks? Was it like just above a third of the average? So, yeah, it's... I don't mean to sound like a bit sort of disappointed with it. It's for something called the Colossal Squid. Its attacks aren't as colossal as I would have thought, shall we say. But anyway, it's got a lot of abilities, so let's go into the abilities. So the first one is Craze Charge. So roll a dice for each enemy unit that is within 1 inch of this model after this model makes a charge move. On a 6+, that unit suffers a 1 mortal wound. So you roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch of this thing on a 6 takes a mortal wound. I'm sorry guys, I'm just... That's sad. I mean, it should be on a 4+ or something. Everything else practically is. So why isn't that? Right, the next ability is Fungoid Squig Explosion. So if this model is slain, before removing the model from the battlefield, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of it. On a 2+, that unit suffers a D3 mortal wounds. Then you can add 1 Squig Herd unit of up to 5 models to your army. Set up the Squig Herd unit wholly within 9 inches of this model and more than 3 inches away from any enemy models. This model is then removed from the battlefield. Okay, so if this thing dies and you're in range of the enemy, on 2+, you get a Squig Herd unit. So there we go, that's not a bad ability, is it? Now when it says up to 5 models, I presume that means you get a Squig Herd unit, but you don't get any of the like Squig Herders in that unit, because obviously that's 1 in 6. However, this ability might have been written before the updated Gloomspite book, so it might be subject to change, maybe. Okay, and then the next ability is Puff Spore. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target this model. Okay, that's pretty good. That makes it more survivable. So yeah, I like that. Obviously, shooting is not really going to help it survive because it's only from melee, but it's nonetheless a good ability. And then the next one is Swallowed Whole. So if a modified hit roll for an attack made with this model's enormous jaws is a 6, that attack inflicts D3 mortal wounds, and the attack sequence ends. Do not make a wound or save roll. So instead of having to do a wound roll and then the enemy having to fail and then you do D3 damage, it simply just does D3 mortal wounds. So yeah, that's better. And then its keywords is got Destruction, a Gloomspite Gitz, Squig, a MOONCLAN, a Monster, and Colossal Squid. So the 3 most important ones there within the Gloomspite army are going to be Squig, a MOONCLAN, and Monster, for the same reasons I stated with the Mangler Squig. Right, so let's, like I say, I was a bit negative about this thing, but let's look to see what it is good at. What a lot of people I've heard of run this thing as similar to the Mangler Squid, but they will just get this thing and they will just charge it straight into the enemy as quick as possible just to make the enemy have to try and deal with it. While the enemy's dealing with that, you've got all your Grots, all your other things just taking the objectives. So you're making the enemy have to catch up with you because you're already like a couple steps ahead by the time they've dealt with dealing this thing. Yeah, they could kill this thing without too much trouble, you know, because it's only got 5+ save, but it's got 16 wounds. So they might be able to do it in, let's say you take the first turn. Let's say this thing moves insanely fast and it manages to charge the enemy turn 1. There's a chance the enemy might be able to kill this thing in your first turn. But I would probably say not. It's probably more likely going to be in their first turn, which means everything that was in combat range of this thing, which is going to be a fair few things, especially if you charge it in the right part of the enemy army, is not really going to be able to move unless it wants to retreat. So you're making the enemy have to make compromises, and yes, you're just chucking away a 300-point unit. However, it might be the wise tactic. That's what I've heard some people do. I know that's what someone did who won the Age of Sigmar Grand Tournament heats and stuff. There was a MOONCLAN Grot player back then. It wasn't Gloomspite's MOONCLAN Grot, and that's the tactic he used as far as I was aware. So that might be how you play this thing. It's got a chance of you know getting a Squig herd unit, hasn't it? And like I say, in combat, the enemy subtract 1 for their attacks made against it. So more survivable there as well, isn't it? I suppose. And it can do a fair amount of damage, probably just not the colossal amount I was expecting, but for 300 points maybe this is fair, and maybe I've just got too high expectations. But that is going to be the large unit from Forge World we're going to review. The last model we're going to review, and that's going to be the next one, and these come in packs as well, so you get quite a few models in a single pack of this. And this is going to be the Squid Dice. So the good thing about the Squid Dice is they're not going to cost you any points in the game. Unfortunately though, they don't have a war scroll. However, their key features are they've got 6 sides. They are as uneven as hell. They will bounce around the whole, not just the game table, but they will bounce off the table, around the room, out of the shop, along the streets, into a drain, bounce along the drain, and get to the ocean, as where all the squigs like to live, you know, and they're free and all those sorts of things. But they will bring many happiness and joy to your games, those Squid Dice, and they are very characterful, and like I say, they don't cost any points. So they are probably the best part of the army. I would go that much. You need them. Right, okay, so that is going to be the end of this video, as that is going to be all the Squig units reviewed for the Gloomspite Gitz, which are not including their heroes, as we'll get to that in a later video, because the Gloomspite Gitz have so many units, as I'm realising now. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. And if there's anything that, if you're a Gloomspite Gitz player, because I know we've got a few who subscribers and stuff and found on the channel, if you want to put down your thoughts down below, I know Mur, you're definitely a Gloomspite player and stuff. So if you want to put down your thoughts below and let us all know sort of, you know, how you run these Squig units, or if you don't run them, or you're thinking about running them, or even if you don't play Gloomspite Gitz, but you're thinking about picking them up, or you got any questions, please let me know down below. And on that, if you could like, subscribe and comment down below, guys, that does massively help the channel. It's absolutely free for you to do so and really helps the channel grow. If you would like to support the channel a step further, I have now set up a Patreon account, which is a way for me to be able to get support to the channel without me having to pay any adverts on my videos, because I'm sure quite a few people already know this, But as YouTubers like myself, we don't actually get paid any money from YouTube. So all the money we can get for support towards the channel really does help when it comes to just buying battle tomes for armies that I don't play, like the Gloomspite Gitz, like Fire Slayers that are just being announced. Things like that really helps towards me being able to save it for a better microphone and an actual camera, so I can do like better live hobby and chats. I can do battle reports, which I would really like to do, especially if I'm getting more and more games in 2nd edition, which is only like basically built up my experience of it, so I know more and more what I'm doing, and not forgetting important rules and stuff like that. When I say important rules, it just means there's so many realm rules, aren't there? So it would be really good to have some battle reports going on. And then also the money is just great for me to be able to justify how much time and stuff I put into the channel, because like I've said many times before, the work is quite busy and stuff, so it really does help for me to put the time and effort into the channel. And essentially all this support goes straight into the channel and helps to provide you guys with better content. And on that note, I'd like to thank my 4 Patreon subscribers who are Vampire tier, which is the 2nd tier on my Patreon, and these are people who donate at least $5 a month to me a month, and these are going to be to Max, Simon, Carl and Martin. So again guys, thank you very much for your donations. It massively helps the channel for all the reasons I've just stated, and like I said, all this is going to get saved up and it will go to providing a better content, even if it's just all the new battle tomes that are coming up, helping to for me to be able to purchase those, especially for the armies I don't do. But anyway guys, I thank you very much for watching this. If you can't support me on Patreon, that's absolutely fine. I'm just really glad that you came and checked out the channel today. And remember guys, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.